Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ted Santos. I am your co-host for The Creative Alchemist. And we come to you every Thursday live, and we talk about business. We talk about small businesses, mid-sized businesses. We talk to the entrepreneurs, and we are talking to people, especially at this time, where we are a country in crisis. And we will talk to you about the things that small businesses need, from PR to finance to banking. And in this today will be something really relevant because we have our government who's offering a relief package. So we're going to tackle some of that today from a financial perspective. So I'm your co-host, Ted Santos, and I'm always riding with my co-pilot, Lori. Let them know you're here.
Hi, everyone. This is Lori Miller, LGC Interior Design, and I am an interior designer based in Long Island, New York. And today we have our wealth manager, Lee DeLorenzo from United Asset Strategies, and she's here to help us navigate the pitfalls and help us seize opportunities for your money and business in this craziness. So hi, Lee, and please feel free to introduce yourself and let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, hello, everyone. As Lori said, my name is Lee, and I'm very happy to be on the show this evening. Thank you for asking me. A little bit about myself and my company, United Asset. Although the company was started in 1992, I've been in the business since 1979. I joined when I was 19. And wow. I have a wealth of financial and investment and asset management skills. But tonight I'm really excited to be sharing with you information regarding the different programs and things that you might not be thinking about your pensions and IRAs and all sorts of things. So anything you want to ask, I'm ready.
Well, that sounds fun.
So, yeah, thanks for joining us, Lee. For those who would like to call in and ask questions, myself, Lori, or definitely Lee is our guest, you can call in at 516-387-1640. That's 516-387-1640. This show is a 1-hour show, so if you're looking to call in, please, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and dial. So Lori and I are going to ask Lee a few questions so you all can get to know her, and then we'll really dive into what the pitfalls and advantages are. And, Lee, you and I had an extensive conversation. I think people are going to be amazed at the knowledge you have and then the perspective you have as an entrepreneur, especially for those other entrepreneurs who are listening. So I know you just told us a little bit about yourself. You've been in the business for a while, but I know I asked you if this was, for you to be in at such a young age, was it a family business? Like, where did you start?
So I was doing some bookkeeping for a lighting manufacturing company from 14, I started as a billing clerk to age 19. And my father was selling some life insurance for a large insurance company. And he basically asked me to join him as his assistant. And through his coaching, he just encouraged me to really dig in and get some licenses and some certifications. And I've been committed to lifelong learning since that age. At 19, a life and health insurance license. At 21, a stockbroker's license. At 24, certified financial planning certificate. And on, a broker-dealer with all the necessary licenses. And as recent, I concluded a course at Wharton on investing behavior so that I would be a better counselor to people to help them understand their bias when they're investing. So I just keep studying in that regard.
Really interesting, fascinating. We always talk about people who sort of, were people born or groomed to be who they are, and you starting at such a young age said that there was, I assume there was something always in there waiting, to come out and express itself in the world and business. It sounds like it.
Well, I'm smiling because my kids say, I have 3 children that are grown, and they tell me that on my tombstone they're going to put money, money, money.
So you had a taste for money. You had a green tongue, right?
I like to count it and organize it and put it in little rows. But I like to help people save their money, make money, do more with their money. And it's an opportunity. It's in times like this where my entrepreneurial background can help people to forecast down the road so that they might, take advantage of stopping certain behaviors or anticipating drop-offs in business and imagining a balanced budget and things like that.
So your children give new meaning to a green thumb when it comes to you, right?
I suppose.
So one of the things, and it'll be relevant later in our conversation, your father, like you said, he did an amazing job coaching you. He also kind of threw you in the deep waters and had you do some phenomenal things in expanding the company and creating new divisions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, he liked to sell, and he liked to sell products. And I was not a salesperson. I consider myself a builder. I would build infrastructures under him to help him sell more. And he would realize that we had an opportunity to maybe go into a new business division. And he would say, he called me honey, go do this. So the first thing is, and it does affect small businesses, is that almost all small businesses, once they get done maybe having an IRA and a SEP IRA, that they might have a 401k, a profit sharing, or a defined benefit. He had said to me, you know what, we just referred out 35 different cases to this 1 or 2 actuarial firms. Why don't we start our own pension administration company? So that was one of our first separate business companies that we started. Started it in 1985, grew it to 250 plans, but due to a number of factors, and they come into play right now in different economic environments, it became a company that offered the most liability and the least profit margin, and I decided to sell it. I still am an excellent pension consultant, and we refer the business out to other pension companies, but stay as a consultant in the field as opposed to the actual administrator at this time. And that's just an example of him saying, honey, go do this. So we did that.
Was there another division he had you start?
He at the time that I joined him in business, he was what they call a captive insurance agent. There aren't many left. That's when you really represent one main company, and your business is supposed to go to that one company. And there's pluses and minuses in doing that. But he early on saw the benefits of really being independent and being a broker for all things. And he said, you know what, why don't we stop being agents and start being brokers? So we started to broker out not just the life insurance, the disability insurance. There wasn't even long-term care insurance at that time as a product. But we went into health insurance for groups. We did group insurance, individual insurance, voluntary benefits, employer-paid benefits. And through that, you wind up meeting underwriters and claims people. Not that we were the insurance company, but my father was never cheap. We always had maybe less profits than the next company, but we wanted to do it well. We always are well-staffed. We always, pay our people well. And even if they were listening, I don't think that they would be cringing because we want to do it right. So the brokerage firm was built. Later on, when we were stockbrokers, and you must do business with what they call a broker-dealer, like Merrill Lynch is a broker-dealer. When we started our investment advisory company, which is not subject to the broker-dealer rules, rather you just provide investment advice for a fee, our broker-dealer didn't like it, and they wanted us to pay them a lot of money to keep doing this separate line of work. So we looked at the numbers, and I figured I'll just be a broker-dealer. So we became a broker-dealer as well. Later on, that became, just not sensible. So we just shut down all broker-dealer business and didn't need it anymore. So that ability to solve problems effectively for years and then re-examine and say, I don't need to do it that way anymore, and then shut a division down or sell it. It's gone through all of those decisions over the years.
Interesting. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Lori, I know you were going to ask something.
I did. If we can go back to the pensions for a second, I'm a creative, and I'm sure there's a lot of other creatives listening. When you talk about pensions, is that the same thing as like a city pension, or when you have a steady job and they give you a pension when you retire, or is there a different type of pension that you're talking about?
So when I use the phrase pension, I am using a wide net and including almost all qualified retirement benefits, including that New York City traditional pension. But I'm also considering a 401k, a profit sharing, a SEP, a simple. All of those, to me, when I speak to people, are pensions. And the one that you're describing is considered a defined benefit plan. And usually they start to make sense. You should be making some money. All the other plans would be less expensive and probably meet your budgetary needs. Defined benefits would be the last one on the list for you to install. And in my preparation for tonight, one of the things I was asked to do was, in this environment, if you did have a defined benefit plan, is there something you should be doing, especially if you're on hard times or you think you might have hard times? So if any listeners happen to have a defined benefit plan, the government did not give any relief in funding 2020, and you need to freeze your plan. You should freeze it now before April 30th for different rules I could go into later or skip it. But if you have defined benefit and you want a little relief, you just have to freeze it now.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, really
good.
Good
To know.
Yeah.
So after this, we'll be making an appointment to meet with you.
No problem.
So would you, with what you just said about benefit plans and freezing it, if someone isn't aware of that, would you consider that to be a pitfall in today's economic environment?
A defined benefit plan, just like certain types of 401k plans that have something called safe harbor contributions, where you've made a promise to your employees and you must meet it, you can suspend the promise, but you need to tell them in advance. So the 401k world, almost 60% of our plans are safe harbor plans. You have to give a 30-day notice that you are not going to be making a match or not making an employer contribution, and then you're off the hook. So yes, you'll owe the contribution for January, February, March, and April, but you'd be off the hook from May 1st for the rest of the year. And heck, if business turns around and you have the money, put it in. You can always put it in. And in the defined benefits, the same thing. They got these crazy rules that once your people work 1,000 hours, you have to give them the money. So 1,000 hours usually kicks in at the end of May. And there's rules about notices. So you have to give the notice before the May 31st comes. And that's why I picked April 30th as the recommended date. And no one's going to be talking about this because it's not one of the government plans in relief. This is something that could creep up on us because we're not thinking about these, matters right now.
And is this something that entrepreneurs sometimes overlook because they don't have someone with your expertise in their corner?
Or and they're so busy, going, oh my gosh, I got to furlough this employee, or I'm not allowed to go out and do my work. It's just a little something. And again, it really affects companies that have employees as opposed to the self-employed. But even a self-employed with a defined benefit who thinks they might have a hard time needs to freeze their plan.
So what are some of the other pitfalls that you see that are on the horizon that may be overlooked because people are scrambling? They've had a significant reduction in the volume of their business, like if they're in manufacturing and they're trying to figure out what to do with these employees. And for the record, a lot of people think CEOs or entrepreneurs are happy to fire people, but they really are not, especially when they have good people and they're trained. Like, this is kind of a threat. You don't want to lose those good people. So a lot of business owners are actually concerned about that. So they're sort of frantically scrambling. And we were talking a few minutes ago that not even the government or the banks, like, no one's 100% clear on how things are going to work out.
Right.
So what are some of the other pitfalls? And Lee, if you could even speak a little bit, like give an overview of what this plan is, and I want to start with the pitfalls before we get to the advantages in this market. But what are some of the challenges? The overwhelm of the banks. Do the banks really know what to do? What are the challenges and pitfalls that are out there that people need to be aware of?
So one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that Congress passed most of these rules on March 27th, which is just a few days ago. And they don't really write out all the rules for the IRS or the SBA, the Small Business Association. So it was only, as I understand it, on March 29th that the Small Business Association actually got what was passed and could wrap their head around it. And what most people don't know is that the applications really aren't even going to be accepted for people with payrolls. Tomorrow would be the first day, and I think it's April 8th if you're self-employed and you don't have a payroll, you just have net income. And you can imagine now the Small Business Association, they're not the lender. Banks are the lenders, and you're either an approved SBA lender or you're not. So you might have one bank on one side of the street and a bank on the other. One is an SBA bank and the other one isn't. The one that isn't can't help you at all with any of the SBA programs that were just rolled out. And some of us, we think SBA means loans. Now, back in 2008, was it 2008, when the market was having a severe financial crisis because of the mortgage problem, the SBA came out with a loan program, and my own accountant had encouraged me to take a loan, even though I really was sure I didn't need it. He said, just take it, you don't know. And he was right. You always want to have someone else's money that you're going to not pay back than the money that you had in your own account. But the SBA at that time made you personally guarantee all of the loan, right from $1. They also put a lien on my home. So even though I took the loan and then I paid it back like right away, like within 6 months, I never used it. It took me like forever to get the lien off the house. And, of course, it wasn't recorded right, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this time the SBA is not requiring on one of the major programs, not a loan, it's a program, but the SBA is making the banks administer it. So you have to know the banks don't really know what they're doing yet because it's only April 2nd. And tomorrow is the first day they can even accept applications. And I understand today because the links were given out by the Chamber of Commerce and accounting firms, financial advisor firms like myself. We're sending out all the links. And they were like, some of them were crashing because the program's not even open yet and because of the load on the system. So the first thing is, about the pitfalls is keep your patience. If you have until June 30th to apply for money, most of us can't afford to wait until then. If you're one of the people or companies that wants to take advantage or needs to take advantage, you don't have to do it tomorrow. I'm going to wait a few days because my bankers don't even know what's going on. And J.P. Morgan Chase made a big deal today saying they're not ready. The government didn't give them enough time to be ready. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen tomorrow when everyone tries to get their loan applications in, if they're even ready. But my advice to the listening audience would be, relax, because it needs a few more days to really work itself out. And the system crashes, it crashes. Doesn't mean the money's not available.
Right. Wow.
Now, For those who have current SBA loans, do you think they're renegotiating them? Or is it worth a try?
What I saw in writing was that if you had an existing SBA loan, it would not prevent you from being part of the CARES fiscal stimulus package, which includes the payroll protection program. It specifically says will not affect it. And if you give me a minute, I have a piece of paper on the other program, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which the first $25,000 is not personally, you don't have to personally guarantee it, but the loan is available at $2 million. So anything over $25,000, though, they are going to underwrite. And I would imagine your any existing SBA loan would come into play. But let's think about this, Lori. If your existing SBA loan doesn't does not charge you 3.75%, and most old SBA loans don't, they have a higher rate.
Right.
You could probably refinance the old loan into the new loan.
Right.
I would guess. Right. I would guess. And I'm only guessing. But that would really be a screw job if they didn't.
Right. Okay. Thank you, because I'm sure there's a lot of small business owners that have SBA loans out now, too, so that's relevant.
That's right.
Really good question.
And again, anyone who has an existing, they usually are personally guaranteed with liens on everything you have. When you are off the hook on those, work on cleaning it up right away off your credit, because when you're trying to close on a house and you think you've got 90 days to get the SBA to do anything, forget that.
Right.
It's longer.
Okay. Anything with the government is a little bit tricky. So thanks. Any other pitfalls?
I think the big pitfall is not knowing, because not understanding all the different programs that are available, and which ones might fit for you. So, I have a client who, is a person, and there's programs for people, not just businesses. And some of us are people and business owners too, so you might be able to benefit by multiple programs. So I did not ever dream a week ago that I'd be talking to anyone about this, never mind a podcast. But the last 2 days, the phones and the emails are nonstop about the government programs. So the pitfalls would be leaving money on the table. But the psychological part is you don't all have to know it tomorrow. Take your time. Let your accountants get educated. Let your financial planners get educated. Let your banker get educated. So just the pitfall would be being upset because you're going too fast.
Okay, that's good.
So
can we move into seizing opportunities? Because this is so interesting. Nope, not yet.
Not yet.
All right.
Not yet. No, so
we got to stay on the negative, huh?
Just for a little bit. Well, these can be important, right? These are
going.
These can cost people money, right? So,
right.
And we may never. I'm sorry.
Right, lost opportunity is money, lost money, and some of these programs. Like for myself, my company is well capitalized. I don't need a loan. But one of the programs is going to recognize the fact that I am paying for people's full salaries, even though I might not have full work for them, even though my profits are disappearing. And it's not a loan. It's pure cash they're going to give me. So normally I wouldn't apply. I'm absolutely applying. Leaving money on the table is the mistake, the pitfall you want to avoid.
Absolutely. So I'm going to assert things may never go back to what we call the normal, except I want to talk about under normal conditions, and we're not in a global economic crisis, what are some of the pitfalls when you work with business owners and they are managing money or investing it, and they're moving money around? What are some of the pitfalls that you see just in normal everyday business?
I would just start with tax, making sure that you maximize your tax deductible plans that you might have. if I meet an employer who doesn't have, a simple tax-deductible pension plan in place, I would encourage them to do so because it's the cleanest tax deduction on the tax return. That's one thing that people I see might be not taking full advantage of. They might have a simple IRA and a 401k would have been better. They might have nothing. The other mistake I can see is that a corporation sometimes, if they're lucky enough to have a lot of cash, they get a little lazy and they leave it in the bank. And the bank, what is a bank investing in? It's investing in U.S. Treasuries, maybe some mortgage-backed securities, maybe some taxable municipal bonds. That's what the banks turn around and buy. Well, we don't need them to step on our returns. We can sometimes move money out of the bank and into a managed portfolio and just pick up a little bit more return even on our safe investments. So right now I'm working with somebody, and I think Lori even knows her, in the real estate business where she's waiting, with cash on the side to flip a house or to, make her next flip. And I understand some of your listeners are real estate or decorator based, so I bring that up, which is that idle cash. That's not really appropriate for the stock market, but it's certainly appropriate for trying to do a little bit better with cash alternatives. So that phrase, cash alternatives, cash management, is where people are leaving money on the table.
Really
that's
good.
Really interesting.
All right. Any others?
Yeah, that's really interesting. We may have a lot of callers interested in that. If I was able to get a group together, would you be interested in that, Lee? In talking about how to get the money to flip the houses?
I already have enough on my plate.
Okay.
I could educate you. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking for, but I'm not making any new commitments at the moment.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay, back to you, Ted.
So back to Pitfalls. I wanted to address.
Else?
Yeah, I did. On the Pitfalls, I mentioned to you that I sold the company that I started and grew to 250 plans. I mentioned to you that I shut down the broker-dealer that we started up and ran for 10 years, what have you. I think a mistake are companies that just hang on to product lines or business lines that just don't make sense anymore. One, if they're not fun, if Lee's not having fun or joy or peace from her businesses, that's the first inclination that I need to look closer. And most of the time it's probably because it's not worth the money, or I'm losing money or something. So I would just encourage the listeners it's okay to pivot. It's okay to shed a business line or shut something down. And right now in this business environment, I think it's imperative that people just close their eyes and look 9 months ahead and think of which and this isn't about terminating employees, but it might be time where you just shut down something. So I just think on that forecasting, and your accountant can't come in at the end of the year and sit down and go, how you doing? This is something you have to do on your own. You have to just think this through now. So, so I guess that was about it I had on the Pitfalls.
And so actually we can use this as a segue to the other side of the coin. So if you do divest a division in your company, because as you said, it's not fun or it's not as profitable as you'd like it to be, that selling it can give you a good amount of cash, right? And so there are things that you can do, like you were saying. Do you just put it in a bank and let the bank invest that, or there are other ways? Or is it smart then to start looking at the environment, the global and competitive environment, and looking at new opportunities, sort of like what your father did? So I'm probably asking a loaded question, or more than one question, and we can tease it out. But if you do sell off, is this environment, do you think, presenting some opportunities that that people may overlook because of the hysteria? Are there some advantages in the marketplace right now for companies that are cash rich?
Well, the one is, the divide between the haves and the have-nots from a business perspective are that the strong, well-capitalized companies are going to do better than those that aren't. So certainly if you were to even shutting down an unprofitable, there's nothing to sell. You just stop losing money. That's okay.
Right.
If you were, blessed to have a company that you could sell or assets in a division that could be sold off, the first thing you don't overlook, because I am a certified financial planner, is was there any estate planning or income tax planning you should have done well before you wave your flag at the IRS, hey, I'm selling my business. There's things where you can, and we could probably talk about this on a different, podcast, which is things that you can do that might help you not so much save income taxes a little bit, but also to separate your estate in such a way that is better situated than you just going ahead and selling the business and keeping everything in your name, et cetera. So sorry, I digress there.
No, that's good stuff. Keep going.
All right. So when the first thing that comes to mind is off my own experiences that I took the free time I had from not having to run that business, not so much the money that came from the sale, but the free time to do more of what I love, more of what is profitable, more of what is going to support the major breadwinner of the company, whether that, in that case, when I sold the pension company, it was so I would have more time to sell because my dad had retired and moved away, and now my head salesman was gone. I needed more time to sell. So what I did was I used my time more than my money in that regard. There was when I sold the broker-dealer, it was the same situation. I needed more time. I was spread too thin, and it was just redeploying my own capital, my own personal capital, as opposed to cash capital.
So
now, money's a different story. So, what we really are is an asset manager. Before this all started, my company was managing $1 billion, and we're a firm that actually has research analysts, portfolio managers. We make our own investment decisions. We don't farm it out. So, in this regard, you talk about this environment as opposed to some other environment. What would you do with your money? It has everything to do with the cash flow needs of yourself and your corporation. And I'd say if you think you need any money within a year or two, right now, don't be trying to pick the bottom and rush in. Or make sure the money you need in a year or two is totally safe and out of the markets. And then you could talk about, your reinvesting of your proceeds from the great sale of your business.
Okay. All right. And you were just talking about your time. Like if you looked at time as an asset and you hired a salesperson, which I'm going to assume meant that required less sales from you. Like you could do other things, and now you had a salesperson who could focus on it. Doesn't mean it takes you out of sales. You just don't have to dedicate as much because now you have someone who's 100% dedicated to getting new business. And that was an investment of time that has its own return if the salesman is successful. Is that a good way to characterize it?
I would, and it's a segue into what we were discussing yesterday in preparing for today's discussion. The two examples I just gave you were when I sold a broker-dealer and when I sold a pension administration company. But there was another time, and it was a time just like this. It was back in the year 2000 and 2001 where the market was falling. Our personal investment our corporate investment strategies that we had in place were not sufficient to stop the tide of the loss to a degree that we were comfortable with, not for ourselves or our clients. And the company was much smaller than many less employees. I was not just the head investment strategist. I think I was the entire portfolio management team. And I needed more time to address the markets. And I wasn't going to bring in a stranger And I knew then that I would reach in my pocket and I would finance hiring my first senior business development person, i.e. a salesperson. So the decision to bring in a salesperson, it's great if you have a lot of money, and then I financed it. I know a salesperson, a good one's going to pay for themselves in a certain period of time. If I brought in a portfolio manager, they don't pay for themselves. That's pure labor. And I would have been mother-henning them. I would have been, a little mother hen over them, making sure that they were managing the money the way I wanted to. So I didn't do it that way. I hired a salesperson instead, my very first salesperson. And it's funny because she's still with me today. She left, she made 3 babies, but she came back. And she was a great first risk.
Excellent. Testament to your leadership also.
2008. Excuse me?
I said a testament to your leadership for her to come back.
No, I'm probably the overpaying so that people are happy. No, she's great. And then we did the same thing in 2008, but it was more, I guess, inspired by the gods. But my senior business developer, now a partner in the firm, came to me at the end of 2008, and he said, my company's buy and hold. Are you still doing those, we call them stop-loss strategy, your stop-loss strategy? And I said, yes, we are. And then we compared investment performance results, and he said, I'd like to work for you. I'm like, no problem. And and again, because he's such a rock star, he was able to pay for himself, in about 8 months. So it was a wonderful addition to the team. And he's still with me today, too.
Okay.
Wow.
So on one hand, we could say this is a crisis unlike anything we've seen perhaps since the swine flu 100 years ago. So this is pretty serious what we're all facing. Except at the same time, you have seen other financial markets crash that affected, reverberated throughout the whole economy and globally, especially in 2008. So are there any lessons that you learned that could be passed off to as advantages in this market that you learned in the 2001 or 2008 market crash?
Yeah, I mean, we'll shift away from businesses and just talk more to specifically the stock and bond market.
Okay.
When the streets are full of real fear, people are just calling us every minute. They're so afraid. It's usually a contrarian indicator, and it's time to buy. And so the lesson from the past is that we want to pay attention not just to the fundamentals and the technicals, is that this behavior, this bias we have about fear and greed, it needs to be paid attention to. And that's one thing. I didn't really take that third ingredient in the way I do today in the year 2020 as I did in 2008 and 9. And in 2008 and 9, we were very strong fundamentally and technically, but compared to 2001, we were more like a deer in the headlights. We just had no strategies. So the idea of what are we learning? We're learning that when fundamentals cannot be relied on, which means the economic forecasts are like toilet paper and corporations refuse to give us earnings guidance for the future, we have nothing to base what a stock should really be trading at. We need to move to the technicals. And you could have 5 technicians in this room right now, and they give you 5 different ways that they get to what they call support and resistance in the market, but they'll usually be within, a certain percent of each other. So at our company, we pretty much pay attention to the S&P 500 from the stock side more than, say, the Dow, Industrials, or the NASDAQ. So we're busy having conversations about where is support and where is resistance so that we can gauge the level of volatility and that we can gauge when is a good time to nibble at the market or to just stand clear because fundamentals are just not available for us right now. It was a lot easier in 2008-9, to be honest with you. In 2009, corporations were willing to give forecasts, on how many, cups of coffee they were going to sell at Starbucks, versus right now they're not. They're suspending all guidance.
Interesting. Wow, really. You were around also. This is a little bit tangential. Back in '87, you were around when the markets crashed back then also.
Yeah, I was just like a secretary at the time, or major sales support person to my dad. But what I did see, and this is a sad story, is his best friend worked in the office next to him, and he had a heart attack over the market, and it's something that shaped me to this day. He started to trade gold, and he was trading gold, and I didn't even know what it meant. I was 27 in '87, and and then he died, and it was my dad's best friend, and I still have his widow as a client today, and his children are all my clients. They're all my age, but we'll never forget, and no one denies it, that he let this panic and fear kill him. And it shapes me today, and it should shape all of us. That's why I'm saying, don't get all upset tomorrow when you can't get through on the SBA website. Try next week. You'll get the money.
Right.
Well, and if we look at that, '87, the market crashed, and I forget what it was trading at. It was down 500 points, which we were up almost 500 points today. So 500 points was about 20% back then.
Yeah, I work in percentages, so I think it was like 27% in 1 or 2 days, and it was a shock.
Right. So, but in the end, whatever the market was trading at back then, 2000 something, it still went up, and we've gone up to 29,000. So if we look at 2008, the market dropped back down to. Went from like 10,000 to 6,000, and it's back up. So the market's come up. So to your point, to becoming so anxiety stricken that you have a heart attack or a stroke, it's not worth it. The markets do come back. They just do.
And that's
money.
That's right. I mean, the people listening to this telephone, we are capitalists. We're in business to feed our families and have a good stimulation for our brain. But we're here to make money. We're not here to lose money. And the corporations that are trading, whether they're trading at a premium or a big discount like they are now, we still want to sell cups of coffee, and we still want to come out with new technologies like Zoom, and we want to come out with new medicines to cure this disease. It never stops. This is what we do. And I think, I don't want to be crass about this, but this is a virus. It has a beginning and it has an end. And that's unlike what we saw in 2008. We really thought that our dollar was collapsed, or that all currency was collapsing. That's not the case here. In November, it's going to be apple pie and football. And that's a fact.
That sounds good. Sure, a lot of men who have a difficult time living without their football, so they'll be happy to hear that they'll have apple pie and football. I'm sorry?
I said I'm a diehard Jet fan with season tickets.
Jets fan. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I do want to pause, though, because, I do not want to offend any listener. Apple pie and football, if you lost a loved one, I'm sorry in advance for my comment.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I second that. So this also, I don't know if you get involved in these. Do you help or support in any way if your clients, if it's a business owner and they have cash and they want to expand and they want to do acquisitions? Do you ever get involved in any way in that aspect with your clients?
We haven't played that role at all.
Okay, so you play no role. You just, if your client says they want to do that, you may just give them a place to park their money so that they can maximize the return on it.
Right. I mean, certain clients will come to me with private equity opportunities where they're being approached to make loans or take a preferred position in a corporation. But I get phone calls and turn them away where they say, "Will you help us raise money?" And I say no.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just because we already do so many other things and we want to do them well,
Right.
and that I don't know that's like much higher risk than I'd like to be around.
Have you? So when you've grown your divisions, it's always been organic. You never did it through acquisitions, correct?
Well, when we were growing our pension administration company the first time, we did take in, or we bought out a competitor. There were partners, and one wanted out of the business and one wanted to stay. And it was just a perfect fit for us. We were able to buy their book of business and get one of them to come in and then use the cash flow from the, salary we didn't need to pay that other partner out. And and I guess it's just a testimony to how we do business. That gentleman is still in my life, and it's 30 years.
Wow.
So when I sold the company later, he was sold again, poor guy. But then he broke out on his own, and he stayed on his own the whole time. And we still work. We cross-refer business to each other today.
We have a caller.
Okay.
So, caller, would you like to introduce yourself?
What's the area code?
202.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
202.
Hi.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Lana, and I'm calling from Maryland.
Okay, thanks for calling.
And hello,
Do you have a
Lana from
question?
Maryland.
Hello.
Do you have a question for Lee?
I'm not sure. I was just going to listen. I kind of have a unique situation, so it's a lot to kind of get into.
Okay.
Do you
We're
mind sharing?
more than happy to listen.
Do you mind
Sure.
sharing any of it? Sure, great.
Sure.
We've got time. Let's hear it.
So I am a business owner in Maryland. It's an LLC partnership, and I am one partner in Maryland. My other partner is in Virginia. So there's that caveat. And then our LLC is actually formed in Wyoming. So we are a foreign entity in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia because we do business in all three locations.
Okay.
So trying to navigate everything that's going on at the moment, it has been a little difficult.
Okay. Are you
What?
trying to get familiar with some of the government programs that you might qualify for?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have employees or just partners?
No employees.
No employees. Okay. So an LLC can pay a W-2 to a partner, or it can just flow through to you as a partnership. So yours is flowing through to you as a partnership?
Yeah, we do a K-1.
Mm-hmm. So the idea of a payroll protection program that is designed for you to continue paying your employees is not necessarily going to be applicable to you because, they're trying to, keep employees on the payroll. But you are also an employee in a way, but because you don't have a W-2, your certain benefits are not going to be available under that program. But there's an economic injury disaster loan program that they have, and the first $25,000, there'll be no personal guarantees required, and I understand that if you don't qualify for whatever reason, they'll still give you $10,000. So if you could make inquiries into the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, EIDL, you might be able to get $10,000 free money, $25,000 no personal loan, no personal guarantees or underwriting. And if you need more than that, then you can make applications. And the loan rate's 3.75%. The other is that under the CARE Act, where you just switch to being people, depending on how much, adjusted gross income you have, you may be getting a check in the mail. And if you just give me a minute, I have paperwork here. I could just see if there's anything. The sum of payments of any compensation to a sole proprietor or independent contractor. You pay any sole proprietors or contractors?
Not on a regular basis. Like, we did have a couple 1099s go out, but they were pretty small for like wallpaper installers and stuff like that. And then we take owner draws.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I have enough information here to see if, as partners, you could get any of that PPP program. But I don't want to get stuck. So the PPP program, if you qualify, the money can be used to pay salary, health benefits, rent, and utilities. So that program, it would certainly help us self-employed people, and that you should check into if you can.
Okay.
Was that helpful? Do you have other questions?
Where can she go? Where can she go to find that to apply for that leave?
The first phone call should. You can go. The Chamber of Commerce has a really great website up, and your bank, if it's an SBA bank, they're going to have information on it as well. And I mean that would be it. So you just want to make sure you're in the right program. So the CARES Act fiscal stimulus package has the payroll protection program. That one's going to be free money, and then the economic injury disaster loan program would be borrowed money. And if you don't qualify, they're still going to give you $10,000. So it's almost like you don't have a reason not to apply.
Okay. Is there a reason to, should I be applying for both of them at the same time?
You can. Okay. And then there's also the unemployment insurance was extended. And if you were to be able to say that none of your partners can make any money because of this, they made you stay home, you're quarantined, you're sick, the unemployment insurance has been extended.
To sole proprietors?
Certain sole proprietors are eligible.
Yeah, that was actually my next question, because I was told by a lawyer a couple hours ago that since we don't have actual payroll, that we would not be qualified for that. But then somebody else told me that was not true, so I'm really confused.
So the unemployment I printed out went under my couch where I'm sitting, but no, there's a special availability because of the situation we're in for unemployment for self-employed. So press on, or I can give my email address and you could write to me and I'll send you the piece that just slid under my couch that I can't send you, but it's the unemployment information.
Okay.
So Lori, should I give out my email address?
Yeah, please. Because we have 5 minutes left. So if you want to give your information, your email, how people can reach out to you.
Okay.
I mean, that would be great.
All right. So my company is United Asset Strategies, and our website is, of course, www.unitedasset.com. And you can send an email to info@unitedasset.com, and I will, they'll route it to me because no one will know what we're talking about. So be Lee. What is this?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. This was so informative and helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling us all the way from Maryland. Those are great questions, and I think a lot of people are going to be perplexed.
Nope, she's still here.
Okay. Well, even if she was still listening.
I'm still here.
I found 2 bullets. Unemployment insurance has been expanded, blah, 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 and tax credits for the self-employed may be available. The Family First Coronavirus Response Act includes help for people who are self-employed and includes a tax credit for sick leave and family leave of up to $200 a day or 67% of average daily pay. And then it allows for $500 a day for emergency paid sick leave. So that isn't going to help you if you're healthy, but that will help you if there was someone sick in the family.
Okay.
So that was
and then, to apply for unemployment, I'm assuming that's just my local unemployment office. I've never had to do that before.
Me either, and I don't know. But I hope that they're not going to have lines around the street. I think it's an online process.
Exactly.
Yeah, because there's 3 million on unemployment already, so I'm pretty sure it's an online experience.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for calling in. It was a pleasure.
And Lee, what was the name of that disaster loan again?
Yeah,
can you repeat that again?
Yeah, through the SBA is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. One other thing we didn't touch on was the fact that there's been an extension to file your tax return. I don't know that everyone knows that, but it also allows you the time to pay the income tax that's due with it. And it also gives you time. You were going to fund your IRA or your HSA for last year. So everything was extended to July 15th. And it doesn't matter whether you're a corporation or a person, everything got extended.
Oh, interesting. Really? Well, corporations are normally paid by March 15th, so that's extended to July also?
Well, if you filed, you filed, but yes. And the $9.90 payroll tax, you still have to pay your payroll tax on time, but there's relief on the forms because they're realizing that no one's where they're supposed to be.
Right. Okay. So we're about to close out, Lee, and I loved having you here. God, you're extraordinarily knowledgeable. The ambition, and I have a new visualization for a green thumb now with a $sign on it. So
and money on your tombstone.
That's right.
Any closing remarks you'd like to make to our audience?
Oh, you're going to think I'm wacky. My first thought was I took a deep breath and I wanted to say a prayer for all of us. I just stay grounded, stay hopeful, and, sun always comes up.
And can you tell them once again how to get in touch with you? Website, phone number, email?
Sure. www.unitedasset.com. I'm Lee DeLorenzo, and our phone number is 516-222-0021.
Lee, thank you so much. This was so informative and so awesome. And, you wanted to say a prayer, and my grandmother used to say, this too shall pass.
Okay.
We're alive in interesting times. No, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you, and I would say thank you to all the listeners and callers, and we'll be back next Thursday with another great show. Everyone have a great evening, and take care.
Have a great evening. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much, Lee.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.